Hello, I'm Hubert Laws, and I invite you to continue elevating your spirit and cognition with listening to Neon Jazz with Joe Dimino.
This is Sonny Rollins. I love jazz, I am a jazz musician, and Neon Jazz with Joe Dimino seems to love jazz, seems to talk about our great music. So give it a listen.
This is Abel Ramirez, and you are listening to Neon Jazz with Joe.
Hello, my name is Alan Ferber, and you're listening to Neon Jazz with Joe Dimino.
Hey, it's Alexis Cole, and you're listening to Neon Jazz with Joe Dimino.
Hi, this is New York City-based drummer and composer Allison Miller, and you're listening to Joe Dimino's Neon Jazz.
Hey, everyone. I'm Andrea Brackfeld, and you are listening to Neon Jazz. Thank you so much for listening to my music and to Joe's show, and I hope you're always listening to jazz, because it's the best thing around.
Hello, this is Arturo Sandoval, and you're listening to Neon Jazz with Joe Dimino.
This is Ben Williams. You're listening to Neon Jazz with Joe Dimino.
Hi, my name is Bert Seeger, and I live in Boston, where I play jazz piano, and I'm here to tell you that you should be listening to, or you are listening to, Joe Dimino's Neon Jazz.
This is Bill McCamey, Kansas City bassist. You're listening to Neon Jazz with Joe Dimino.
This is Bob Bowman, and you're listening to Neon Jazz with Joe Dimino. This is some great stuff.
This is Bob Ringwald. You're listening to Joe Dimino on Neon Jazz.
Now, this is Bobby Watson, and you're listening to Neon Jazz with Joe Dimino.
Hey, everybody. This is Brian Haas with Jacob Fred Jazz Odyssey and the Nola Tet, and you are listening to Neon Jazz with Joe Dimino.
Hi there, folks. My name is Campbell Riga. I'm the saxophone player from Vancouver, Canada. You're listening to Neon Jazz with Joe Dimino.
This is Hammond B3 organist Chris Hazelton. You are listening to Neon Jazz with Joe Dimino.
Hey, this is Corey Weeds, and you're listening to Neon Jazz with Joe Dimino.
Hi, this is Cyril Aimé, and you're listening to Neon Jazz with Joe Dimino.
This is David Amram. I hope that you will tell your friends to join you in listening to Neon Jazz with Joe Dimino. It'll raise your hopes, it'll lift your spirits, and you won't be disappointed.
Hello, I'm David Friesen, jazz bassist and composer and educator, and you're listening to Neon Jazz with Joe Dimino.
Hey there, this is David Gibson, New York City trombonist. You're listening to Joe Dimino and Neon Jazz.
This is Delphio Marcellus, and you're swinging with Joe Dimino and Neon Jazz.
I'm Donnie McCaslin. I live in Brooklyn, New York, but I love Neon Jazz with Joe Dimino.
This is Ed Cherry, and if you're into great jazz and want to hear some nice, fine, soothing music, listen to Joe Dimino and Neon Jazz.
Hi, this is Ed Palermo from the Ed Palermo Big Band. You're listening to Neon Jazz with Joe Dimino.
Hey, this is Eddie Moore, and you're listening to Neon Jazz with Joe Dimino.
This is Ernie Watts, and you're listening to Neon Jazz with Joe Dimino.
Hi, this is pianist Fred Hirsch, and you're listening to Neon Jazz with Joe Dimino.
Hi, this is Gary Smolian. You're listening to and enjoying Joe Dimino on Neon Jazz.
Hey, everybody, this is Gordon Goodwin, leader of the Big Fat Band, and you're listening to Joe Dimino on Neon Jazz.
Hi, this is Gracie Terzian. My EP, Saints and Poets, recently hit the Billboard charts and iTunes charts. I hope you like it. You're listening to Neon Jazz with Joe Dimino.
This is Harold O'Neill from Kansas City, currently residing in New York, and you're listening to Neon Jazz with Joe Dimino.
Hey, everybody, this is Jeff Coffin from the Mutet and Dave Matthews Band, and you're checking out Neon Jazz with Joe Dimino. Dig it,
hey,
give
everybody,
it a listen.
This is Jessica Page. Tune in to Neon Jazz with Joe Dimino.
This is Joe Chambers, and you are now listening to Neon Jazz with Joe Dimino. Enjoy.
Hi, this is John McLaughlin. This is Neon Jazz with Joe Dimino. Keep listening.
Hey, this is Jun Sangbei. I'm from Korea, and you're listening to Neon Jazz with Joe Dimino.
My name is Justin Koffa. I'm a jazz pianist, and I'm having a great time talking with Joe Dimino from Neon Jazz.
This is Laura Ainsworth, and I think Neon Jazz is out of this world.
I'm Logan Richardson. I'm living in Paris now, but definitely anytime I come to the United States, I make sure to tune in to Joe Dimino on Neon Jazz.
Oh, this is Lou Dawson. If you're around Kansas City, be sure to listen to Neon Jazz with Joe Dimino.
This is Chicago trumpeter Marquise Hill, giving a big shout out to Joe Dimino
Neon
Hi,
Jazz.
everybody. This is Megan Birdsall, and you're listening to Neon Jazz with Joe
This is
Domino.
Mike Jones from Penn and Teller. I've got a new CD out called Roaring on Capri Records, and you're listening to Joe Domino on Neon Jazz.
Some more Neon Jazz.
This is Oliver Lake, and you're listening to Neon Jazz with Joe Domino.
This is Perez with it. Whenever I'm in Kansas City, I love listening to Neon Jazz with Joe Domino, and I hope you do too.
This is Phil Woods. You're listening to Neon Jazz with Joe Domino. The best music on your
This is Ron Carter with Neon Jazz with Joe Domino.
This is Ryan Heinlein, professional trombone player from Kansas City, Missouri. You are listening to Neon Jazz with Joe Domino.
Stanton Kessler, Kansas City trombone player, welcoming you to Neon Jazz with Joe Domino.
Hello, this is Steve Wilson, and I'm telling you, you need to check out Neon Jazz with Joe Domino. Right on.
Ted Nash, the saxophone composer, and you're listening to Neon Jazz with Joe Domino. It's a place where some really interesting stuff is talked about.
This is Todd Strait. You're listening to Neon
Hey,
Jazz.
jazz lovers. This is Victor and Penny.
And you're listening to Neon Jazz.
Hi, this is Vince Giordano and the Nighthawks, and you're listening to Neon Jazz with Joe Domino.
This is Will Vinson, saxophone player from New York, formerly of London. You're listening to Neon Jazz with Joe Domino.
Neon Jazz.
You don't define jazz. Jazz is just like an attitude.